Hello everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear. Today I've got another cool knife to show you. This is the Spyderco Yojimbo 2. This knife has been in my collection. It's actually one of the longest in my collection since I started really collecting nicer kind of higher end knives. This is a really cool Spyderco. It's super different, super unique. You can tell the second you look at it that this is not your typical everyday carry knife. This is designed by a guy named Michael Janich. To my understanding, he is a combatives instructor, and so this knife is designed particularly for knife fighting, which is pretty crazy. I've never gotten into a real knife fight, but if I do, I hope this is the knife I'm carrying that day. This blade profile, you can see this Wharncliffe comes to just a scary, gnarly point. If somebody was coming at me with this knife, I would be afraid, and rightfully so. This knife is just an amazing piercer. That edge is perfectly straight, perfectly flat. There's no belly on it. It's a really deep hollow grind. This one is the standard S30V version in satin. It really shows off that hollow grind well. It comes out really thin behind the edge. Let me see if I can show you that profile there. This is actually, I've found, a really great slicer. The stock is really thick, as you can see, but because of that hollow grind, getting it down so thin there, it actually glides through material pretty freaking well. This one does, of course, have the Spidey hole. It's a Spyderco, so I middle finger flip it every time I open it. It is a compression lock. And when I traded for this knife, I'm trying to remember what I traded. It was a long time ago. I think it was a Kaiser Sheepdog, the titanium version. I might be wrong. Anywho, when I traded for this knife, the guy who traded it to me had these Putman, I'd have to look, they're aftermarket scales. It's still G10, black G10, just like the factory ones were. But as you can see, these are milled with some texture, and I really, really like them for this knife. I feel like it suits it, with it being kind of a fighting knife. It gives me great purchase in the hand. They're not rough. In fact, they're even kind of a smoother, less gritty material. At least the finish on the G10 compared to Spyderco's factory scales. But because they've got all of this texturing, it really locks into hand. I happened to flame or heat anodize this hardware to be bronze as well. I'm not sure if the camera will pick that up very well, but I really like it with the bronze hardware and those scales. And then I had an extra pair of 3 Lynch Northwest deep carry clip laying around, so I threw that on this guy as well. And this knife actually makes it in my pocket quite a bit. I didn't think it would be something I'd carry all that much because I didn't think it would be very functional, but I've been super pleasantly surprised with how well this knife cuts, how great it does at EDC tasks. I thought the tip would be crazy fragile. I was worried I was going to break it off into the first thing I shoved it into, but it's held up really well. It's held an edge pretty great. I don't use this knife that hard, so I haven't ever had to sharpen it. I've only stropped it, and it's been doing fantastic for me. But there is the Yojimbo 2. I'll put it in front of the camera for a moment and give it a little glamour shot for you. All right, Spyderco Yojimbo 2 with a view. Like I mentioned, this is the standard CPM S30V version, satin finish. It's a really cool looking blade. I really like the satin that Spyderco is able to accomplish. The way you see all those kind of grind marks, it looks great to me. We've got Michael Janich's initials on there, that little MJ on the blade, Golden, Colorado, USA, Earth, just like all of Spyderco's Colorado-made knives. And yeah, those scales you can see in the sunlight are really cool. This texturing works great for me. I think they look cool. I think they kind of suit the knife and its style. I probably wouldn't like these scales on another knife, but on the Yojimbo 2, they just make sense to me. I do have that hardware bronzed with some heat. I did that at home, and there's the Lynch clip that I've added on there. But yeah, action, 10 out of 10. Centering, 10 out of 10. Everything about this knife is just great. Great to carry, great to hold, great to use, and I'm really glad that I own a Spyderco Yojimbo 2.